majority of the country is not ready to take on what will come after the World Cup.
All right, welcome to Sponsorable, a podcast that brings together sports organizers and brand leaders to talk about the business of grassroots sports. I'm Garrett Shea, and I've spent the last 20 years in the youth sports industry, where I've built nationally televised sporting events and corporate sponsorship programs. I wanted to create this podcast to bring in experts from the industry and have them share what they do in the space and how they do it. My guest today is going to talk about the national soccer landscape, their key partnerships with brands like Carvana and Hudl, as well as what to expect with the World Cup coming to the United States. All right. Well, hey, we got Justin Miller, CEO of Rush Soccer, the largest club soccer organization in the United States. Justin, thanks for coming on. It's great to have you.
Garrett, thanks for having me, sir.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm excited to talk with you about Rush Soccer, and certainly on a national level, you're one of the few soccer brands that can offer corporate America a presence, across the United States, on athletes, coaches, parents, club programs, communities. Talk a little bit about Rush Soccer and what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Rush Soccer, we're the largest youth soccer club organization in the United States. In the fall here of 25, we're hoping to announce 60,000 players in the network, which is really exciting. It's made up of 110 clubs in 34 different states. And, our mission is really to provide an unparalleled soccer experience for all those stakeholders you just listed: players, parents, coaches, and anyone who wants to be involved in the game, volunteers, referees. The organization started in 97 with our founder, Tim Schultz, and our aim is to just be the preeminent sui generis soccer brand in the country and the world. We're also global. We have another 50 or so odd clubs internationally, and soccer's different everywhere. So there's a different model here in the United States versus internationally. But the core of the business is here in the US, and we're excited to keep growing the game here domestically.
Awesome. So some of the listeners might not be as familiar with kind of the organizational structure. So maybe just give us the Cliff Notes version of what is a club.
Yeah. A club is any youth soccer organization that has a membership that wants to join our network. So we own and operate some clubs, but majority of our clubs are just their existing entities that want to be a part of Rush Soccer. So we'll do due diligence on each other, see if if they're a good partner for us, if we could be a good partner for them. They can then apply to join the network. And then if they're accepted, they get access to all of our programs and services. And those programs and services can vary amongst a myriad of things. One of the main parts is building their pyramid, so helping the elite player move up in ranks to higher playing levels. It can be helping them in the front office, because just as well as I do, Garrett, a lot of youth soccer clubs in this country, they're extremely understaffed. So at Rush, we do a really good job of helping them operate the front office so they can focus on developing players on the field. And this is some of the programs and services and reasons why a club joins. So we define a club in the network as, any youth soccer existing organization that wants to be a part of, the organization.
That's outstanding. So in essence, right, the pitch to an existing club who's currently not Rush Soccer is, hey, let us handle the business and administrative side, and you handle the soccer and player experience from a local community standpoint. Is that kind of a fair value prop?
That's exactly right. Tim, who founded the club, as I shared back in 97, even more so today, he was seeing how volunteer-based these clubs were. And when you were kind of running around trying to collect payments from parents, figuring out how to schedule referees. He kind of saw this void of a lack of focus of developing players on the field. So that was the nexus and the genesis of this organization, was to really focus on the front office so the field could be the priority for the real soccer people. And that's kind of how we've grown and why we get so many clubs interested in joining, because we really kind of have a good focus on, like I said, sharing and helping that front office.
Yeah, that's outstanding. So, you know, sponsorable, the business of grassroots sports, and this is really why I wanted to create the podcast, is to share stories like Rush Soccer and what you do for Rush Soccer, with the world of brand leaders, other sports organizers. And I think as I look at it, and I've spent a lot of time in grassroots sports. And it's really, and that's why I love the value prop that you offer, because at the end of the day, no athlete and no parent is signing up because you've got a great business operation. They're signing up because you've got a great soccer coach and great soccer experience. And as a player, I have a great time on the field. As a parent, I have a great time in the community. So what you're offering is like, hey, soccer guys, be soccer guys. We're going to handle all the business side, which I absolutely love. And some of our earlier podcasts, we talked a lot about sports technology, and how technology is really helping aggregate and centralize, a group like Rush Soccer. You're able to now operate from afar and work with clubs across 34 states. Maybe share a little bit about kind of what are some of the sports technology systems you guys deploy to make life easier for your clubs.
Yeah. It's a really good question. This tech stack for Rush is pretty large. The first one that we deploy into each club is what we call Rush 360. It's in partnership with a platform called Player 360, and it's custom to Rush. And essentially, it is the club's operating system. And at its core, you hit it on the head. At its core, it starts with that relationship from the parent to the coach. And parents, their whole thing is they want very clean, concise communication. So that's the start of Rush 360, which is our operating system that majority of Rush clubs operate on. And we communicate with parents through there. We collect registrations through there. We do player evaluations through there. And we're trying to find this one-stop shop for parent, player, and coaches to figure out all necessary information for their Rush experience. And so you can go down each category. For the coach, we have all of our sessions within Rush 360 so they can show up to a field. A lot of coaches, they're part-time. They might be an accountant by day, but then they're coaching a team because it's their passion. They don't have the time to plan that session. Well, they can go into their app, their Rush 360 app, and they can pull up, hey, what does Rush National say I should do for training today? The parent, there's a few parent educational tools in there helping them talk to the players, their players about their mental performance or how to basically engage their players while they're going through their soccer journey. And of course, it's the communication to the parent in there too. And then for players, we have player evals, versions of them to track their performance at training. How did you feel today? How did you not? So the tech part of youth sports is really growing and it's becoming ever important. And we try and put the best parts of the soccer experience in our app for all the stakeholders in our network.
That's great. So as I put on my kind of more of a brand marketing hat, I would have to believe, right? I talk to a lot of brands about grassroots sports and how do they want to activate, and they typically all look at say, hey, I want to be part of the journey. I don't want to create a one-off experience. I want to be along for the duration of the season. I want to be part of the schedule. Do you allow brands to market on that platform?
We do. We have some key brands already in the platform, and we really add them in a very non-intrusive way. There's parts of the app when you can open and you see the brand. There's parts within scheduling where you can see the brand, and there's parts within communication where a brand can be visible. And we are very thoughtful on these brands, which ones should be in the app, and then how we introduce it. Because the worst thing a brand would want is for a parent to be annoyed that they're getting fed some sort of ad, and now they have a negative association with the brand. So we're really thoughtful on where the placement is. But you're exactly right. When we want the partners, that brands and companies that support the Rush, to be in front of our membership. We want our membership to know that their brand is supporting their child. And then we can create a real connection rather than it being just, amorphous, and the parent doesn't fully understand why that brand is a part of the experience. We like to be thoughtful and make sure that all of our members know that if the brand is associated with the Rush, that association is also in support of their kid.
That's outstanding, because as a parent with 3 kids who are avid athletes, I am on every probably app system there is. And I am blown away at, because all their different sports teams have different apps that they require us to use to access their schedule and information. But I am blown away at some of these apps that, like, they're feeding me ads that have nothing to do with, one, sports, two, youth sports, like, and they're from brands that, it's almost like programmatic ads, and it's, and I feel like, man, like, what a miss some of those tech platforms have had. Whereas, like, you're thinking about it the exact way a brand wants to think about it. And that's why, as I kind of compute all of this, I was like, that's why Rush Soccer has had so much success, because you are thoughtful about your players, thoughtful about your parents, and thoughtful about the brands that you're bringing into Rush Soccer. So that's my hat goes off to you for that. And part of that is, we've had a chance to work together before. We worked on one of your big partnerships with Carvana, and maybe talk a little bit about that Carvana partnership that you have.
Yeah, it was great working with Garrett in the Carvana partnership. Carvana is a great partner. When we first met, it was apparent that they wanted to be a part of growing soccer in this country. And that was really important for us because that's our ethos too. They have existing partnerships with the Chicago Fire. They're on the front jersey of the first team in the MLS. And they also have a partnership with the youth and pro team in Arizona with the Phoenix Rising. So they were already in the space. And when we got introduced to the group, again, it was very apparent that they wanted to be a part of the United States soccer journey. And so, with us being the largest youth soccer club and having the biggest reach, and them having a deep desire to growing the game, it really was a perfect match. We're still working together on a lot of different initiatives. They're wanting to come out and be visible at some of our events. Of course, they're extremely visible as they're the premier partner for Rush Soccer. And what that gets you is the front jersey spot. So in the fall, all 60,000 kiddos, home and away jerseys, so that'd be 120,000 uniform kits, is going to have Carvana on the front. So it's a really exciting time for both entities, I think. We're excited to make that statement that we've chosen a partner who wants to be ingratiated in American soccer. We've chosen them to be on the front of our jerseys. And I'm sure that they're happy to get that exposure, and they'll see that, Rush is a great organization to partner with.
I couldn't think of a better fit and partnership, and mainly because I look at soccer and say, man, the sport of soccer has done such a great job with the corporate branding across the jersey, right? I think it's the only sport where corporate brands, like, it matters, like, what are the corporate brands on the front of your jersey, and whereas other sports, it's, it may feel more like an advertisement or a patch. Like soccer, it's like, it's truly is like, hey, we're teaming up with Rush Soccer, supporting kids and parents and families, communities across the country. We're putting our brand on the front of the jersey. So it's a great community play. It's a great branding play. Every Major League Soccer organization has a brand on the front. So, and I look at say, hey, I think more and more brands will turn to soccer and work towards something like this or a program like this. And one of the reasons I know in talking with the Carvana team that they loved Rush Soccer was because what they didn't want to do is they didn't want to work with 50 different or 110 different clubs. They wanted to work with one organization that had the reach and ability to drive and connect their message to all of those 34 different states. So that's where, as I think about youth sports and the future of youth sports when it comes to brands, these kind of national organizations like Rush Soccer are really attractive to corporate America because you make their life a lot simpler and cleaner. It's right. I don't want to deal with 110 different, club leaders. I want to deal with a professional organization who then can actually reach all of those communities.
You hit it on the head. And it's great to find a strong national partner like Carvana because that really validates and excites the team. It validates us for all of our hard work because you're exactly right. Brands and anyone trying to enter the soccer space, they want to be with something that's already coalesced, that's already together. And when you look at the soccer space, it's extremely fragmented. So you have a lot of people, brands, partners that want to help grow the game, but they just don't know where to go. So I think that's going to be our competitive advantage as soccer and youth sports in general continues to grow is the fact that over the past 15 years, we've built systems and have operations that allow one unified voice to reach across the entire country in a more meaningful way. And so we're excited that we're allowing Carvana to have that opportunity. Super excited to keep growing our partnership and reach. And any other brand that wants to be in the soccer community, we'd love to be a platform for them.
Yeah, and I also love the idea because I also work with Circle K on a program that they do with kind of more park and rec organizations where they're providing the jerseys with the Circle K brand, and that's really all sports. It goes across flag football, baseball, basketball. But what I loved about Circle K's vision for that type of a program is they want to go into the community and activate so it's not just, hey, you got my brand across the chest, but it's also how am I going to activate so that the families see me as that authentic partner. And that's where I'm excited to see where Carvana goes because you have a lot of local activations, right? Where a brand like Carvana, yes, they're across the chest, but they want to come in and they want to be authentic on the ground. Maybe talk about some of those kind of more on the ground assets that a brand could take advantage of.
Yeah, it's a great question because we're being really thoughtful with Carvana on how we're rolling it out because you're exactly right. It needs to be authentic. It can't just be a logo on a shirt. And for the event space specifically, we are going to have Carvana out to probably maybe a dozen different Rush events across the country. And they want to get out, be on the ground, introduce themselves to the families and players, have a couple handouts, and talk to them about basically their offering. The other cool thing about Carvana as a brand, another reason why it was a no-brainer, the vehicle experience in youth sports is very prescient. It's top of mind to a lot of families. Not only are they driving insane amount of distances sometimes with their kiddos, but we're in youth soccer and these kids are going to eventually get their permit and need to look for a car. And so where can they go for a trusted source and partner. So even outside of just them being activated at a bunch of youth tournaments around Rush Nation, we're also, and Carvana is building kind of a landing page for Rush Soccer specifically that has a 1-800 number to where Rush members can reach them directly and they can get help with their car buying experience. And this is just another creative thing that we've done through our partnership to ensure that our members know that this partner is authentic and they're here for them. They're not just here placing a logo on their kids' jerseys. They want to build real inroads and grow the game together.
Yeah, that's outstanding. I mean, especially when you can get that, customer service member benefit, that makes it special for your members. I mean, hats off to a brand team like Carvana for working with you on that, because not all brands are willing to do to do that level of customization, if you would, to activate a partnership. So that is tremendous. And I love the angle of, hey, these young athletes are 15, 16 when it's time to get a car. Yeah, it's a great option for them to utilize Carvana. And they have that brand the families and the parents, right? Because let's face it, it's the parent who's saying, hey, we're gonna buy you a car. And try to figure out how am I going to do that? Where am I going to do that at? And to have that brand relationship with Carvana is tremendous. So that's a great angle. Yeah. And then as certainly as you look at other brands that you currently work with, maybe share another example of a national, because I get right at the local level. As a club, they could probably still have kind of local partners. Is that accurate? Yeah, but really from a national level, it's finding those right brands that want to come in and activate across all 110 different clubs, right? So it's maybe talk about another national brand that you guys have.
The next largest partnership we have is with Hudl, and they're a camera performance provider. And this is the dominant force in youth sports, especially on the soccer side. We entered into an excellent agreement in the beginning of 2024, and it was all surrounded around performance. We found that they have the tools that we needed to really help players reach the higher playing levels. This is through video analytics and simply just recording the games in a quality way. We all know with 2025 and tech, players are still wanting to play in college, of course. They want to move up the pathway. And in the United States, of course, going to college is kind of that next level after club soccer, of course. And one of the most important things is getting your game recorded. Colleges' budgets are shrinking and they're not able to get to as many showcase events as they used to. And so it's becoming even more important for young athletes to have their games recorded. And we really identified this in 2019, 2020, especially during the pandemic when people weren't flying, players weren't as much on the field. And we knew that we needed to find a video analytics camera partner that would understand the rush in a meaningful way and understand how important this type of programming is for families. And that's when we struck a partnership with Hudl. And so we have extremely good preferred pricing for our teams and clubs to buy Hudl cameras. And in addition, we use their analytic tools to help scout our top talent. Along with the front office of Rush Soccer that we talked about at the beginning of this call, we have a really good player pyramid. We have a whole team of employees and scouts that want to help identify top talent and move them up the player pathway through Rush Soccer. And Hudl is allowing us to do that. Now, we have majority of our Rush clubs using a Hudl camera today, and we have our pro team, Varstein Rush and St. Polten Rush in Austria in Croatia using the Hudl cameras, and we use their Hudl Assist and their Hudl analytics tools to kind of spot top talent around Rush Nation because we can't get all of the scouts to each Rush club in person. So Hudl was another very integral partner to the organization, especially on the sporting side, so we can help identify top talent and then move them up the playing ladder so they can reach the highest playing opportunities available to them. So that's another really, really important and great partner for the Rush.
Man, that is. And you identify like what makes a great partner, and it is they are solving a challenge that you as an organization have and improving the experience, if you would. And that's what as I think about, I never even thought about applying Huddle internally at Rush, which is a great move. So, and what's the top tier? Like, if I wanted to play at the highest level for Rush, what is that team?
That team is professional. So we have ownership and help operate a first division men's team in Croatia. It's called Varaždin Rush. Very solid. Go Varaždin. I think they're in fourth place right now. It's very exciting, Garrett. And then on the female side, it's a first division team in Austria called St. Polten Rush. And they actually are top of their table and play in the Champions League, Women's Champions League. This year, they were playing against Manchester City and Barcelona. So a very special time for that club and team. Each program wears the Rush kit just like the players here in the United States. And we try and do a very good job of helping the Rush player who's at the level, of course, number one, and has the desire to be a professional, go trial and potentially make that team. On the male side, we've signed 2 players from Rush clubs from around the world. And then the St. Polten partnership is new. So we haven't had a female player reach the professional level yet, but we're going to. But these two teams are the highest level of Rush soccer, and we are excited. One of our visions, Garrett, is to have 2 professional teams, men and women, and the starting 11 is going to be made up of only Rush players that we've found and scoured throughout the world. And the starting 11 will be all Rush alumni. So we're all in pursuit of reaching that goal, and these 2 teams are the platform in which to do so.
That's outstanding. And how about like at the more of the kind of teen level in the U.S.? What's your structure like? What's the highest team that a 16-year-old boy or girl could play for?
So we do a lot of player movement. We have a player loan program to where a kid who might be in Wyoming might not have access to some of these platforms that have really taken over the youth space, the ECNL, GA, MLS Next. They might not have that type of platform in their local community, but we do have a myriad of clubs that participate in these platforms, and we can help them go there. But for the general youth player, we have the clubs that are in these elite platforms, and then we also have a residential academy in Florida. Currently, it's only on the male side. We're wanting to build a female team here soon, but the top player in the country will move them to the academy for them to train. They go to school at the academy. It's kind of like a boutique IMG, if you're familiar with that model.
Yeah, of course.
And so players are playing there, or we're giving them and trying to squeeze them into the clubs that are playing in these elite platforms. And any Rush player that has the desire to reach that next level, we have a really strong team, and we'll help them find opportunities to play at higher levels.
That's very interesting. And so like that the academy team, who will they compete against for on behalf of Rush?
So that's a really high level team. They play in the UPSL, so they're playing against men, and then they're also going to be playing in. I believe they're just trying to get an application in and hopefully approved for MLS 2. The team is made up of a lot of internationals. So we have a lot of our top international players who want to come here, train, and then hopefully make the jump to varsity and or D1 schools. But they're playing in the UPSL, and we do a lot of different events for them. So we'll put on an event where they're playing against top MLS teams, MLS Next teams. So last year we had a nice friendly event where they're playing against Inter Miami, Orlando, or Weston, where these teams who are playing in the MLS Next program, the first division, will do events and games with them. And then on a daily basis, they're getting top competition against men in the UPSL.
Okay, great, great. And as you kind of as you look at your tournament structure, maybe walk us through kind of how is your how is your tournaments across the country structured? Are they run by the local club? Is there a national Is there anything that kind of tiers up to a national championship of any sort?
Yes. So we have about I want to say over 80 tournaments in the network. Majority are operated by the local club, but we're in partnership with all of them. Whenever you join the Rush, if you run a tournament, you get access to basically what we call a tournament allotment, where we will donate or contribute some equipment dollars to enhance the environment of the tournament. And then in doing so, we're in partnership with all of our local clubs and their tournaments. We have a lot of reciprocal deals. There's a lot of reciprocity between Rush clubs that are locally, where we fuel that tournament with certain teams, and that then they fuel teams back to their tournament. So we try and build a lot of connectivity around the events. And then Rush, of course, owns and operates a few national events ourselves, whether that be our really special U13 only Rush Fest event that we host every year in Denver. We do an international Rush Cup in Florida every year where we invite our international teams, Canada, Bolivia, Honduras. These teams come every year and they compete. And so we just really try to build a connective tissue amongst Rush clubs and their tournaments to ensure that all of them are at a certain standard. They're full with strong top teams, and that there's a healthy ecosystem of tournament and activation opportunities for everyone involved.
Hmm, great. And obviously, the international side, the biggest events are coming to the U.S. I get the question all of the time from brands that are, very, very interested in how from a brand standpoint, how am I going to activate around soccer, tie into the World Cup? Does Rush have anything cooking for the World Cup coming to town?
Yeah, we do. We actually have a World Cup czar. It's Neil McNabb. He's the president of Georgia Soccer, just got elected for USYS. And then he's also the executive director for Rush Union in Georgia. And we added him to the national staff to really focus on the World Cup to see how Rush can help our clubs be a part of the conversation around the World Cup. There's absolutely going to be growth within the game. We think a lot of the growth is going to be at the youth or grassroots, young recreational level. So Neil is really tapped into the conversation on how we can benefit from this. A lot of it's going to be surrounded around, not a lot, but there's going to be some programming that we've been told coming from U.S. Soccer around after school programming. And of course, us being in so many key markets. If you look at Rush Club distribution, we have a Rush Club within 60 miles of almost every site played in the World Cup coming to the United States. And so having that connectivity or being so adjacent to stadiums where action and things are happening we're helping prep our Rush clubs to be a part of that, whether that's with general sponsorships or making relationships with municipalities for additional access to fields, making a strategy for their club to be seen. So when a parent thinks, oh, wow, that was a really fun experience watching the World Cup and feeling the mania. I want my kid to try soccer. How is a Rush Cup? How does a Rush club become front of mind for that family? So we have Neil leading that strategy. And for brands, being a part of Rush is, of course, a really good one-stop shop for that, because we have our clubs actively participating, thinking about how they can be front of mind for parents trying to access this new sport that they've now seen because the World Cup was here.
100%. I mean, I used to do a lot of work with the NFL, and the NFL would look and say, okay, why are certain markets growing in participation, youth tackle football? And a lot of the times it was, well, the New York Giants were in the Super Bowl and they won it. And all of a sudden, youth tackle football exploded from a participation standpoint in the greater New York area. And that a lot of the times was like, hey, it was the excitement around the big event. Well, the great thing for soccer is the sport is going to swell in the United States because the World Cup is all across the US, right? There's just so much excitement. We're going to see a huge wave of growth in participation. And, to your point, it's like making sure that those kids that get in have a pathway and have a great experience so that they're going to stay in for the next 8 to 10 years playing the sport, which I think is a great opportunity for national organizations like Rush. So
Yeah, we're excited. I mean, I think that majority of the country is is not ready to take on what will come after the World Cup. One of the major constraints is facilities. There's a lot of rural areas around the country that don't have access to enough field space. And it doesn't actually have to be rural, it could actually be in dense cities as well. So we have a strategy because a lot of field development is surrounded around public and private partnerships. The economics don't always work if you have to build the field privately. Like if a local Rush club has to find a plot of land, buy it, and develop, it becomes just too expensive. But there's a lot of relationships to be built with local municipalities, state officials, local officials who could donate land and really drive the community to help build facilities. And that's something that we're strategizing with, and will be really important to make sure that we can grow the game in a smart way. Because if you don't have, I guess, the space for growth, then growth will not be too successful. So we're being thoughtful about that and trying to help facilitate these types of moves for the game.
yeah, no, that's outstanding. A- and then the other big piece that I know I get asked by brands a lot is we want to activate the women's side of sport, right? And uh, s- different organizations, state soccer associations have programs that grow the girls' game. Different initiatives. One of the things that I always look to is the recruitment or how to recruit, retain, and advance uh, female coaches in sport. Because I look at so many young ladies, young girls who play and are athletes and never have a chance to have a female coach. And I look at it across probably all sports, but soccer is a great opportunity to say, how do we get more female coaches into the sport and then keep them, advance them in the sport? Does Rush currently have any initiatives that are looking to grow the girls' game and/or recruit more female coaches into the sport?
Yeah, we do. It's very top of mind for us, especially because the amount of progress that females have made in sports. It's top of mind for us. We have just hired a Rush Female Coach Alliance director. Her name is Jess Nash. She's the executive director for Wisconsin Rush, and she's one of the better female executives in the entire industry. So we've added her to staff to really help spearhead major initiatives that we want to do in 26 and beyond, 25, 26 and beyond. That's all surrounded around what you just described, highlighting and focusing on female empowerment and female coaches in the game. I think that as the sport continues to grow, as the women's sport continues to grow, as the NWSL is doing so well, we just saw the franchise purchase in Colorado, that price tag, that signals growth. And then just general female sports in general. You see a lot of things in collegiate women's sports, basketball, the WNBA, their new collective bargaining agreement is being negotiated right now. With the general attention on women's sports, I think that that's going to help grow the desire for females to be coaches in the game. And so we want to be prepared for that growth too and be trailblazers and lead major initiatives in that regard. And so we just hired a Rush Female Coaches Alliance where we're trying to empower female voices and allow for more opportunities and pathways for players to come back to the game, stay within the Rush, be a part of the Rush, and help grow that next generation of females through coaching.
Yeah, I still am amazed at and this is more of the collective youth sports landscape at the lack of plans that youth sports organizers have into recruiting more women coaches into sport, right? Like I look at from a rec level, from a club level, how do we get more? And at a rec level, right? All of youth sports is run by parents. So it's, I'm a youth basketball coach and a youth flag football coach. And so like, to me, it's like, okay, how as youth sports organizers, do we make it easier for moms to come and coach, right? And lower that, because I realize it, especially in a sport I've never really played, and I'll use basketball as an example. I never was a basketball player. It's hard to go into it because you're like, I really don't know a whole lot about strategy, and so but they really need coaches, and so the youth leagues tend to reach out to the dads, where it's like, well, hey, we need to open this up and get more moms into the game, because I do believe, as a father with three kids, two girls, they truly benefit from having great female leadership as coaches, especially from the community, and they start to see, hey, I could do that someday. So it becomes this, more of a cycle that allows, the young girls to say, hey, I could also coach at some point. And I do believe it makes it more attractive. I still remember when my she's now 13, but at the time she was like 9 years old, and she got a female coach, and she cheered because she said, "Hey, I never would have thought that you could have. I didn't even know that you could have a female coach." And so like that experience still is like, man, like, and I think back to then, I said, man, what a miss we've had in not getting more female coaches into sport, and just making it easier for them to come and coach, less intimidating, more accommodating. Say, hey, we're going to educate. We're going to, things like what you do with Rush. Hey, I don't know what my practice plan is. I can go in and see, here's a great practice plan. Or I don't know what the drills are that I want to run for this practice. Here are some great drills that I can do. And that is the collective, like, how do we go across all sports and make it, easier for to recruit more women into coaching positions? So
we agree. We share the same sentiment. Jess Nash, she's going to have a lot of new things for female coaches, volunteer coaches that want to be a part of growing the game. we'll have a lot of resources for them. We share the same sentiment as you. Well said.
Yeah. Well, Justin Miller, if people want to follow Rush Soccer, if people are interested in how does my club potentially become a Rush Soccer club, or they just want to follow you, like what's the best way for? We'll start with what's the best way for them to follow Rush Soccer.
If they want to follow me, they're not going to like what they see. I mean, they could do something way more exciting. But if they want to join the Rush or just learn a little bit more about the organization, they can go to our website, rushsoccer.com. And then to apply to be a part of the Rush, you can just click that join button at the top, and then also peruse our general programming tab to see what we're all about. And brands too. They can go and check out and see all the different offerings we have to see if it fits within their scope. But same with all the social medias at rushsoccer.com. We're just here to help grow the game and make all of our Rush members proud to be a part of the organization.
Well, hey, Justin, it's been great to have you on. Justin Miller, CEO, Rush Soccer, the largest club soccer organization in the United States. My hat goes off to you. Great job building, running a fantastic organization.
Garrett, thank you for having me, brother.
All right.